Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss and internet shitlords. Meatball was here a second ago because there was milk on the on the table, but now she's gone again. So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna see her in today's video either. She's been spending so much time outside. A few notes here. So check out today. Just today in the comments, someone was talking to me about, well, how do I handle role playing in an OSR context? And I said, well, you do know I did a book called Social Encounters, right? I know it says the Silk Road there, and because it was made by the publisher of Sword and Caravan, but Social Encounters can be used for any OSR context. It's a way to emphasize role-playing based interactions with people in all kinds of different scenarios, where I make use of the 2d6 reaction rules from OSR to kind of expand that into easy ways for the DMs to adjudicate. That's based mainly on what the character is saying and doing, and then, helped along by the modifiers of their charisma and other environmental conditions. So be sure to check that out if you're trying to figure out what's the best way to handle role-playing interactions in an OSR way without just saying, oh, well, roll your plus 12 diplomacy bonus, something like that. Don't forget to check out, too, The Invisible College. Haven't seen that one out here in a while. Still meaning to do some more videos about the history of the magic in The Invisible College. And the Gonzo Fantasy Companion. This has like a huge collection of stuff that you can use. Somebody was saying, oh, you know what there should be is magical... there should be pipe smoking and magical pipes again. This is on a thread on the RPG site. The Gonzo Fantasy Companion has that. They're like, oh shit, you're right. So again, I decided to show off these because they're all stuff that people have been asking related to, and then didn't realize it. Like, this is the stuff. And anyways, besides that, check out not RPG Pipe Presents, the Pundit Files. Number 3, which is the Song Dynasty Renegade Martial Artist class. You get a new class for Lion and Dragon or any OSR game, and several new martial arts styles that are based on real history, of course. Real history and real legend, let's say, too, right? Because that was the birth of the legend of the kind of the wuxia. So be sure to check that one out. You can only buy that one from the Red Room. All of these other ones that I've shown here, you can get at drive-thru. And in the case of Social Encounters and Invisible College, I think you get those from Amazon as well. But the Pundit Files are only available on the Red Room store. The link is in the description below. There's 3 of them so far. The first one is events to shake up your campaign. The second one is an adventure called The Dead City. The third one is about martial artists. And the fourth one's coming out soon. So be sure to keep your eyes open. All issues of the Pundit Files so far have only cost about $3.50. All right, so now on to the topic. This is a very notable year for Dungeons & Dragons. It is its 50th anniversary. And that's a big anniversary, so you'd think that you'd want big things happening. And frankly, the news is in of some of the things that Wizards has decided would be the best way to honor D&D. And it's very underwhelming. But, this wasn't so much of a surprise. Like, it's Wizard. Well, what do you expect? The good news is, hopefully, you won't miss anything by boycotting them, right? So there has been, some of you might have seen that they've said they're putting out a special set of miniatures that includes like a miniature image of like the statue from the old cover of the AD&D first edition book. And some other miniatures like that. And I guess that's the part that would be most likely to fool nerds into buying stuff from Hasbro again, right? But don't do it, right? It's not worth it. Just don't. It's a stupid collectible. It's not actually D&D, right? The notable thing about Wizards so far, what their plan is for D&D for the 50th anniversary, is that to celebrate 50 years of D&D, they're putting out a tremendously small amount of things that are actually D&D. Okay, now obviously they're coming out with one D&D, which is their new sort of edition. It's not really an edition, right? Because apparently most of the rules are going to be based on the incredibly successful 5th edition that were designed by people who were there at the time that know how to design games. Nobody left at Wizards knows how to design games, so they can't really do very much. If they try to make big changes, they're just going to wreck it. And of course, they don't really care because they don't care about the rules. What they care about is the social justice elements, diversity, equity, inclusion, ESG, all of that sort of stuff. So the changes that are going to happen in one D&D are mostly going to be in some way or another related to that, right? Plus, probably incorporating a bunch of crap from the other books that they've already had. And so this is going to be the big deal for them, right? And I mean, the problem is nobody wants it, right? It's not of interest to anyone. And they are at least going to come out, I think, with the books of the core books in print. But we know that their plan now is to move on to the virtual tabletop. And the question is, my first big question is, will the virtual tabletop actually come out this year? Because, the times we've seen it so far, it looks like it's totally not ready for business, right? But they're desperate. They need this to happen, right? They need it to work. So the question is, are they going to unroll it too early? It's going to be full of bugs and crap. Or are they going to have to wait and embarrassingly release it in the 51st year of Dungeons and Dragons, while not having made any actual D&D products in the year apart from the 3 core books? If all 3 of them come out this year, I don't even know. So what have they promised? I mean, because what you're not getting anything that's like, nothing that honors the origins of D&D, nothing that is, let's say, reverential to the old school, right? And you're also not actually getting, as far as I can see so far, you're not getting any real products that are going to be actually D&D. But they have made important announcements of what they are coming out with. And so far they've made 3 big announcements. So the first of these is that they are coming out with a novel. Okay, and this is going to be a Spelljammer novel. The first Spelljammer novel in, I think, 20 years since Spelljammer novels led TSR to bankruptcy. Okay, so it's going to be a Spelljammer novel. Maybe they're trying to remind us of the bankruptcy of TSR. Maybe that's the nostalgia element for the old school, is to think about the time that Spelljammer destroyed TSR, among other things. Obviously, I'm not trying to only blame Spelljammer. Don't get mad, Spelljammer fans. And anyways, this novel is a reboot. They're rebooting the universe into like social justice universe Spelljammer, and of course with all the elements of what the recent horrible Spelljammer book was like. So they're not going to actually talk about flying ships, because those apparently are actually an important part of Spelljammer. But they are going to say that the spider people are not actually evil, right? Because they can't practice slavery anymore. So how can they be evil, right? And then now the monkey people that had once had a very complex storyline, that then in the reboot were given a really stupid, simple storyline about being ex-slaves, are now no longer ex-slaves anymore, and they're a proud and noble people, and probably like they're the greatest scientists in the room, and they have all kinds of Hadozi excellence, So this is what the novel's going. The only thing that they've really revealed about it is that it features a girl boss, a strong, independent woman named Axia, who gets taken on a spelljamming ship and eventually, I'm guessing, becomes a pirate queen or something like that. And yeah, that's what you're getting. That's the first thing you're getting from Dungeons and Dragons this year, apart from the 3 core books that nobody wants. All right, but don't worry, it gets better, right? The second thing that you're getting to commemorate 50 years of D&D, it's a book called Long Rest for Little Monsters, and it's a Penguin Golden book. Now, of the 3, this is like the least horrifying one in certain ways, but it's also completely pointless, right? Like this is not D&D. This is a children's book that I guess nerdy parents or uncles or whatever that are really into D&D. I mean, okay, this is the best case scenario, right? Suddenly my head got filled with much worse case scenarios of the type of people who will want to buy this book, right? But the best case scenario is that like autistic nerd guys who like D&D buy this to read it to their kids or to give to their nephews or something like that, to their nephews and nieces, so that their parents can read it to them. And, it's a golden book. Golden books are these books, in case for the international crowd, that in North America are like picture books for very young children, right? I think ages like 3 to 5, something like that. And it's apparently a story about how it's bedtime in the dungeon, and it shows you all these different D&D monsters, like beholders and dragons and I think green slimes or whatever, whatever, all the monsters going to bed because it's bedtime for them. So it's a bedtime story for children unfortunate enough to have parents so obsessed with D&D that they would buy, or relatives so obsessed with D&D that they would buy them a children's book about D&D monsters, which is it's not terrible as far as I can see, right? It's got it doesn't have any indoctrinating thing from what I can see, but it's just stupid, right? It's just something that's absolutely irrelevant to anything to do with the real hobby. It's merchandising. That is merchandising, right? And so is the last one that I'm going to tell you guys about. It's called Punchins and Flagins, which is a D&D cocktail book. So it's a book, apparently the people running Hasbro, being big diversity people, that means that they're obviously mostly upper middle class white women, and mostly upper middle class white women. Cynthia Williams, for example, she probably loves, hipster cooking, right? And why not combine that sort of thing with D&D, right? And so we saw that already in that there have been D&D cookbooks that have been put out, and they have now hired most of their game designers, right, quote unquote, are people who've never played D&D until they were hired by Wizards and who've made a career out of writing cookbooks, right? A whole bunch of them were brought in by Ajit George. So these are a lot of them are vegan cookbook writers, which means that not only have they wasted their life in general, but even in particular in the subject of cookbooks, right? They're wrong even there, right? They're an abomination even in that. Yeah. So this is probably some other vegan cookbook writer who has got a book that will have 75 different exciting cocktails. And I'm gonna, I don't know how many of you are drinkers, right? There are some cocktails, obviously, that are quite good, right? A few. They tend to become the real big classics, right? The martini, obviously, right? Gin and tonic, you can't really call a cocktail. It's just an alcoholic drink with some tonic water in it, right? But so I guess if some people call it, that's a very popular one. I don't like it personally, but it's a popular one, right? I like martinis. Generally not vodka martinis as much, though. And the martinis should in all occasions be stirred, not shaken, right? That was the whole shaken thing was something that Ian Fleming was using as a hint to the people that read James Bond novels that James Bond is somewhat uncouth, right? He's a boor, right? So it was meant to be that, right? He has this facade of being the suave gentleman, but underneath he's a barbarian, right? And that's the James Bond thing, and the whole shaken not stirred thing is a part of that. But anyways, there some of these. There are a few others you could probably add into there, right? The old fashioned, I guess, a Manhattan maybe, but for the most part, cocktails are horrible, right? They tend to be these ridiculous, over the top disasters that they don't taste good. They offer nothing really, and for the most part, they tend to be something showy rather than substantive, right? And this has only gotten worse the more that women have gotten into cocktails, because for obvious reasons, right? Like that's the whole problem right there. And so now we have, instead of having, let's say, a new Forgotten Realms box set or something like that. Not that I really want that, because of course they butcher it, right? Anything that Wizards did would be a travesty, right? No matter, like, one of the things, I wake up every morning and thank the great architect that Wizards has no interest in doing a Mystara book, right? Because Mystara is my favorite D&D setting, and whatever they did with it, it would be horrific. It would be absolutely awful. I could not understand, after people already saw what they'd done to Waterdeep way back when, and then what they did to Ravenloft, that there would be people, that Dragonlance fans like Yo Dano, right, who cheered at the fact that they were doing Dragonlance. He should have been horrified. He should have understood immediately. All these people, if they saw what they did to the realms and they saw what they did to Ravenloft, they should have known immediately that Wizards deciding to do a book about your favorite setting is just going to ruin your favorite setting. And that's exactly what happens, right? So when they're not making these infantile, ridiculous books like Wild Beyond the Witchlight, they're butchering settings. In a way, it's kind of a blessing that now they have no material interest in producing more D&D books, and instead want to make D&D merchandising like this cocktail book, right, that has 75 D&D themed cocktails, right? It's kind of a blessing in a way, because it means that at least they're making stuff that doesn't ruin D&D further. It's just completely collateral. It's completely lateral, rather, to D&D. It's completely a side topic that is of no interest or utility to anyone. But that's what they're doing. That's what they've got so far. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff coming up over the course of the year, and we shall see about them, and I shall report about them, right? But for the moment, just reminder, don't buy products from people who despise you. And everybody at Wizards despises you if you watch this show. Unless you're one of the people that hate watches this show, but they probably despise you too, right? Like, there's a very narrow range of people that Wizards of the Coast does not despise. So don't do it. Instead, check out great independent products. Celebrate D&D by picking up the real heirs of the Dungeons and Dragons tradition, which is the OSR. There are all kinds of great products out there. If you like my products, obviously buy my stuff. Lion and Dragon. Very, very soon, Baptism of Fire will come out. So just imagine that's the revised edition. That's the new thing to get. Baptism of Fire is going to be way more of a righteous show of respect for the tradition of D&D than anything Wizards is going to put out this year. But not just my stuff. Check out all the other great stuff that's out there in the OSR, because you're going to be much happier than if you buy a cocktail book full of awful bad cocktails that are D&D themed, right? Don't be an idiot, right? Don't buy that. Okay. And I guess on that note, that's everything I have to say for today. And just remember to share this video anywhere you think people find it interesting or get pissed off about it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Meatballs out there. And hit the like button. And please keep checking out my stuff. And we'll see you very soon. Currently smoking. This is a Peterson. This is a Peterson oversized poker, I guess is what it would be. I think it's one of the Sherlock Holmes series, but I don't remember for sure. Plus Argento roots.